Jalen Reagor getting traded to Minnesota changes nothing.
6'4" guys running 4.4s. These guys don't grow on trees. And a lot of times I'm willing to bet on, especially long term, on the freak athlete.
You don't ever want to overreact to what guys look like in preseason. There's been a ton of preseason all-stars that never make rosters or never pan out. All right. Good morning, Belly Up Fantasy Live. It is Saturday, Christmas Eve.
That's right. You didn't drink too much eggnog last night. We are actually live on Saturday morning. So.
Yep. No, you didn't forget to set your clock back or anything else.
That's right.
It's a weird weekend in the NFL. It's a Saturday day where we have a full slate of games. We have 3 games tomorrow. You can think of Christmas Day. They've set Christmas Day almost up like Thanksgiving Day. There's going to be 3 games tomorrow, an early, a late slot, and then one night game. But today is the feast day.
Feast. So bust out the ham, bust out the turkey. Let's get started here.
All right. Welcome in. I am Chase Thornton coming to you from the Mott and Bailey Basement Bar. As always, with me is Kevin Wilson. No Mr. Mallard today, but speaking of Andrew, we would both like to congratulate Andrew. If you haven't seen yet on the Twitter machine, Andrew won Content Creator of the Year for Belly Up Sports, and we are both
well deserved,
excited and proud of him.
We're just glad to be able to work with the man. So we are very, very pleased that he won that award.
You see him here almost every week, and you see his stuff written on Belly Up Fantasy Sports. He writes our Inside the Medical Tent and among other things. But if you haven't checked out his Divots and Pivots podcast,
that's right, Tuesday night, I believe, isn't it, Chase? Tuesday night. Yeah,
I believe so. And he has done some great work on that. He got some press credentials to the Live Golf Tournament in Boston this past season.
That's right. He was up there. He was hobnobbing with all the big wigs up there.
Yeah, and watching them come in on helicopters and everything else. No, he has done some great work over there as well. Had some great guests on that. So if you haven't checked out Divots and Pivots, if you're a golf fan, if you're not a golf fan, I don't care. Get over there.
Get over there.
Congratulations to Andrew on that.
We don't know if he's actually gotten over the events from last weekend. So
yeah, he's had a rough go as a Patriots fan.
Yeah, it's been tough over there for him the last couple of weeks as a Patriots fan, and I would ask him, does he need more time in the prayer closet? Hopefully he's recovered and out of there by now. So
count on his Brady beads or whatever else, and hope things are going okay. The Mac Jones situation over there is interesting. I was doing my research for the Blitz pickup here, which actually will be out right after the show here today. And Mac Jones, when asked if he could commit to Mac Jones as the starter for the rest of the season, Bill Belichick was pretty non-committal on that answer, and he would not say our typical Bill Belichick answer.
If you get more than a yes answer out of him, then I think you're doing good.
Yeah, with the way that Bailey Zappi performed for being a not as highly touted rookie, and for as well as Mac Jones played last year, he has not necessarily I don't know if he's regressed necessarily this season, but he has not necessarily played up to the level that I think
that's right. That seems to be a plague of some of these second-year quarterbacks because Zach Wilson's got this. Well, he's regressed. It's unbelievable how much he has. Yeah. So, Mac Jones, I hope they are not holding him accountable because he got trucked on that winning play. And I've heard that he should have tackled and all this other kind of stuff. But I'm sure his eyes were about as big as saucers when he saw that dude coming at him, and he just didn't. There's no way he could have been saying to him, why is this ball coming to me? First of all.
At the Jones family reunion coming up, Chandler, will definitely have some bragging rights on Mac.
That's right.
They're related, but no, that was an all-time highlight for one. For two, if we've all looked at Mac Jones is not athlete of the year by any stretch of the imagination. He's a good quarterback, decent quarterback. He's a professional football player. He's got my 5'5" ass beat. But I mean, to expect Mac Jones to, all of a sudden come up and, like you said, what the hell's going on? Why is this? What? The ball's coming to me. And then to snap out of that and make a tackle on somebody the size of Chandler Jones when you're Mac Jones up. Yeah, no, that play is in no way, shape, or form Mac Jones' fault.
No,
but the loss is the loss all the same. So
hopefully after that play was over, Chandler took out his brother Jones and and had some kind of maybe a drink together or something, because
right, buy the guy dinner after you do him like that, man.
Yeah.
But congratulations, Andrew. We're happy for you.
Andrew,
we're proud of you.
We're very pleased
looking forward to having you back. Better times are ahead for the Patriots. I just probably not this week with the Bengals on tap, but hey, welcome to what the rest of us deal with every year, Andrew.
That's right.
It's been long enough for the Patriots.
That's right. So he's been sitting on cloud 9 for the last 12 years or whatever it's been, and it's nice for him to come down and join the rest of us down here on terra firma.
All right. So the full slate of games, there are 8 games on tap for the early slot for our time noon, but the 1 o'clock slot is how they call it, with the Easter time zone being reigning supreme.
Right.
Only 2 games this afternoon. One at 4:05, 3:05. One at 4:25. We've got the Commanders and the 49ers, and then we've got the big game. A big game of the day because it has big playoff implications. Philadelphia and Dallas.
Dallas
honestly,
didn't help. Dallas did not help by stumbling. I guess that's about the best word you could put it. Last week, 27-10 lead, and they went straight McCann. So we're fans, as you know, in this house. So we were quite pleased that the Jaguars did that to them. And
right.
And then they did it to Ryan's Jets on Thursday night. And Evan
Jaguars
Ingram,
are on a run.
Okay,
Jaguars
Evan
are on
Ingram,
a run.
That guy is a league winner right there. He got me 20 fantasy points on Thursday. That's the second time in the last 3 games he has had. So if you happen to pick him up, if you read my article and said, you know what, the fantasy professor might know what he's talking about, so I'm going to go ahead and get it. Evan Ingram, well, congrats to you, because he's had over 20 fantasy points 2 out of the last 3 weeks.
No, that dude has come on strong this season. He has, like I said, he has made me eat a little crow where he's concerned, and I'm fine with it. Good for him. We always knew all along that he was an athletic player and that he had great ability. It's just he's never put it all together. Now, it appears maybe a big part of that was a function of injuries. He's not had the best luck with injuries in his career so far, at least in his New York tenure. But then secondly, he has not played with a quarterback the caliber of Trevor Lawrence and the way Trevor Lawrence is playing right now.
Right. And he wasn't playing with the quarterback at that level earlier in the season because Trevor Lawrence wasn't Trevor Lawrence.
So, as Trevor Lawrence has come on, it has really elevated Evan Ingram's stock in fantasy to the point that coming into the week here, he was tight end 4. I believe at the moment, like as we speak, he's tight end 2 overall for fantasy points scored. Now, obviously, everybody else has to play their game today and tomorrow, but
right.
What a find for them. He's only on a 1-year contract. Man's going to get himself paid.
The Jaguars better get over there with paper and a pen and get that done
because
before Christmas.
With the receiving crew that they have already, with the Jones brothers, more Jones brothers, it's a family affair today.
That's right.
Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, but Christian Kirk, who I will again, shout this from the rooftops again. We all kind of ripped on the Jaguars for giving him this giant contract, and actually it doesn't look so bad.
They deserve to get ripped for that contract. Even today, they deserve it.
At the time, it didn't look that good, but you know what? The dude is playing up to it. He has put up wide receiver 1 numbers. They paid him like a wide receiver 1. He's playing like a wide receiver 1. I'm not sure what else we want from the dude when he's wide receiver 10 overall in fantasy, and fantasy points come from real life production. The dude's producing like a number one receiver. There are 32 receivers in the league who are the number one guy on their team. Now, we know not all 32 dudes would be the number one on any team. There's not a lot of guys that are going to beat out Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson or Stephon Diggs or Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, for crying out loud, is number one on his team, and Jalen Waddle is a number one wide receiver. But Christian Kirk putting up those kinds of numbers and putting up that kind of production, I mean, what more do you want from the dude? So, I mean, in my opinion, hey, there's a reason that some of these dudes are working as GMs and coaches and everything else, and the rest of us are talking about it on Saturday and Sunday mornings, right?
That's right. That's right.
Christian Kirk has been awesome this year. He's been cool in fantasy. If you drafted him as a wide receiver 3 or a flex option. He's given you, like I said, wide receiver 10 overall, so wide receiver 1 numbers. And Ingram's been cool. Trevor Lawrence has finally come on and looking like a guy. Jaguars are on a roll here. If the Jaguars can somehow find a way to beat Houston, which almost everybody else this year has.
That's right. And then they got Tennessee that last game. Right? Whoever wins that should win the division.
If the Jaguars beat Houston, which, I mean, I'm not going to make it a foregone conclusion. Houston's actually played better as of late. If the Jaguars beat Houston, that last game against the Titans is for the division and for the playoffs and for a home playoff game, regardless of what happens with the Titans today and next week. The Titans can lose this week and next week, and still that last game, because they're 1 game up on the Jaguars. So they're either going to be 1 game up, tied, or 1 game back of the Jaguars coming into that last week. But either way, because of the tiebreaker scenarios and everything else, that if the Jaguars beat Houston, it's all contingent on if they beat Houston. If the Jaguars beat Houston, that last game between Tennessee and Jacksonville is for all the marbles.
That's right. And Tennessee is going to have to do it with Malik Willis at quarterberp.
Right.
Tannehill, I'm hearing he's out for the rest of the season. He's out today for sure.
He supposedly snuck down to Atlanta and had some surgery on that injury.
Right. So he's out today for sure.
So we're talking about the standings, and we're talking about the NFL playoffs, and that's great for NFL punditry. But from a fantasy standpoint, what it means is you're looking at a situation where no matter how long your playoff runs go, whether you're in like most leagues and the championship will be next week, week 17, or whether you're in a weird league, some ESPN leagues, they run like each round of the playoffs is 2 weeks kind of thing. If your championship technically occurs in week 18, either way, your players from, it looks like, Tennessee and Jacksonville will be having to play all the way through because they have something to play for. And that's something to keep an eye on this time of year as we wind down the regular season in the NFL and the fantasy playoff season is you want to be cognizant of which of your players might be getting rested, which of your players, like you just said, are being shut down for the year. We're seeing Aaron Donald from the Rams. I mean, I know it's defense. We don't talk about defense a lot on this show, but he's being shut down for the season, and why wouldn't he? There's no reason to play him. They're not going anywhere.
No.
Guys,
the outhouse.
Nico Collins has just been placed on IR. I mean, there are guys across the league that are starting to get just shut down for the year, placed on IR if their team isn't going anywhere, or if teams get things wrapped up. Now, I brought up earlier one of the big games of the day, the Eagles at the Cowboys. Now, the Eagles are without Jalen Hurts, who is right now overall quarterback 1, having a stellar season. Likely MVP candidate. He's for sure a candidate, if not the actual winner at this point. But Gardner Minshew is going to get the start. But that game's big in the standings as well, because and again, tying it back to fantasy, if the Eagles win that game today, they clinch the NFC East and
the number 1 overall seed. And you may not see Jalen Hurts the rest of the way.
You may not have to see him for a couple, or much of him anyway, for the last 2 weeks of the season. If Dallas can win that game, now both teams have already clinched a playoff spot. Both teams know they're.
You talk about backing in. The Cowboys backed in that's the most cowboy way that they could possibly have backed into the playoffs. Lost a 17-point lead, and still.
In their defense, they have backed in with 10 wins, which only a handful of teams have in the league right now.
Right.
So, but
it was in their grasp.
It wasn't like they got to
really mean something today, and they didn't measure up.
Right. But if they can beat the Eagles, the division is still within technical reach. Now they have to win out at this point after their stumble last week. They have to win out. They have to have the Eagles lose out. But if the Eagles don't have Jalen Hurts, that's not necessarily,
I don't care if you're playing me at quarterback. Eagles are not losing out.
But Cowboys are favored today. And if the Cowboys can win, they can keep that hope alive for another week and keep the hope alive for their own number one seed.
That's right. Help. So the Cowboy players will be in play next week if they win today's game.
So just like I said, keep that in mind from a fantasy standpoint. What we're looking at with some of these games, I know we're all football fans. Most of us are football fans outside of it anyway. But, as these playoff races shake out, keep an eye on who could be rested, who could be shut down, who could be, who has something to play for and needs to. I don't necessarily always dig this deep in the weeds, but every once in a while you'll hear a stat like, oh, hey, if J.J. Watt can get 2 more sacks this season, he triggers a $4.5 trillion, bonus in his contract, and 3 more automatic years, or you know what I mean, those kinds of things,
right?
Where playing time bonuses and performance bonuses, where dudes will be shooting for those even if they don't have a ton else to play for. So, I mean, all that kind of stuff comes into play this, at this time of year when we're trying to dig every point out we can. Just because your dude has gotten you this far doesn't mean he's necessarily going to be the guy to get you through the next 2 weeks. You want to play your studs, but you also need to be cognizant of, like we said, is your stud Jalen Hurts actually going to play in a full game for here on out, or is he going to be rested so that he's available when it counts for them? They don't care about what happens on our digital fantasy playoff. They care about what happens in 3-4 weeks here when it's round 1, round 2 of the actual playoffs. So keep those kinds of things in mind. We have a note here from, hey, check it out. Happy holidays, gentlemen, from TSS Fantasy, the Commissioner Cooper and Fantasy Jesus and the boys over there. Congrats to Professor Wilson. He won a signed Jerry Jeudy helmet from Santa Jesters. Hey!
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
I was not aware I was even in the running for that.
Look at that. Hey, look at
that. Breaking news.
Not bad, huh?
I thought I heard some kind of noise up on the roof. It was Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. Santa Jester dropping that thing down the chimney. That's not bad.
Jester on the prowl. So,
all right.
Thanks, Commissioner Coop.
Yeah, good for you, man. Congratulations. Thanks to the boys over at TSS Fantasy. Again, another great part of the Belly Up family of podcasts and network.
If you're not tuning in to TSS Fantasy, you are missing the boat. Big time.
Now, I don't necessarily want you to skip them for us, skip us for them.
Well, the best news is because they were on earlier this morning, so they don't go in competition with us. We appreciate them for that.
They are over there in the Eastern slot where, like you said,
time began, so, and he is rising or whatever it is that's going on over there. So they lead us into us. And like I said, TSS Fantasy, they're on practically every day, I think, almost. And they've got a show over there. Commissioner Cooper really puts that together. And lots of bells, whistles, lots of good information. So get over there and check out TSS Fantasy.
They have great guests on, too. Occasionally yours truly has made an appearance.
And both of us have been on the show, I believe. And so, yeah. So TSS Fantasy, happy holidays to you guys.
Yeah, well, and happy holidays to you. You got a present you didn't even know about.
I didn't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. All right. So there, Philadelphia, Dallas, like I said, big game, big day there. Hurts is not playing. Gardner Minshew. I don't know about Gardner Minshew.
Hopefully your semifinal matchup is not coming down to whether or not you're starting Gardner Minshew.
I don't want to be starting him. I like him as a backup quarterback. I like him as a personality. I think he's great for the league.
You would hope that his first start is not up against. I know the Dallas defense let down big time last week, but they're pretty solid in the passing game. And and I saw this question earlier about who should I play, Gardner Minshew or Goff. I'm like, please don't let this be a serious question, because Goff has been blowing the doors off the plate. Yeah. And so if you have a chance to play Goff, absolutely do that.
Now, I do like the rest of the Eagles still.
Absolutely.
It's a bad matchup.
Great cast over there. Great cast.
Right. It's a bad matchup versus the Cowboys, but you're talking AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. You're talking Miles Sanders, who's had a good year.
If you have Miles Sanders, you better have him in your number one running back slot, because the Cowboys are not good against running back.
It's like the one thing they don't do well. And in addition to all of that, they get Dallas Goedert back this week. Dallas Goedert, before
I have
left,
Dallas
was a top
Goedert. I did not start him this week, fortunately for me, because I started Evan Ingram, as I mentioned earlier.
There you go.
And got 20 fantasy points. So Professor Wilson won for me.
Right. I was piecing together with Foster Moreau and other cast-offs.
Please don't do Foster Moreau.
When Dallas Goedert went down, I was in a rough way in the league.
Absolutely, everybody was. I was too.
Top 5 tight end. I had a lot of exposure to him because I was big on him in the preseason. But the league where I'm number 1 seed right now, and that I won last, I'm the defending champion, number 1 seed coming into the playoffs right now.
Me too.
But lost Goddard, pieced things together, still, fought my way through. Someone had dropped Darren Waller. And so I was able to
Darren Waller. Is this a dynasty league?
It's a keeper league. It's a keeper league.
Okay, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me right
We can keep up to 2.
Right,
Waller
that's the same rule that I have. You can have 2 tight ends on your team at one time.
I had the bye last week, so everything's set up perfect. Because Waller came back, so I picked him up. I didn't need to have a live tight end on my roster last week, so I went without, and I still scored the second or third most points. I had a great week. I had Zay Jones, who put up 3 touchdowns last week. Not so much Thursday night, but last week he did.
Thursday. That just goes to show how fantasy football works. One week you're on the top of the world, the next.
But I was able to pick up Darren Waller.
Okay.
Run without a live tight end last week because it didn't matter because I was on a bye. So now I've got my choice here for this week and next week, fantasy playoffs, between Waller and Goddard. Waller scored a touchdown his first game back since week 5. Goddard was a top 5 tight end before he got hurt. So I'm feeling pretty good about that going forward. But yeah, they get Dallas Goedert back, so keep an eye on that. You'll have him.
So I'd probably be playing Waller this week until I could see actual Goddard.
I'm playing Waller this week over him right now. But I do like him to still score some points. I like Goddard to still score some points because he's got a back. He gets targets and looks in that offense anyway. He's good. But B, you're talking about now the backup quarterback. We've talked about it before. A common safety blanket, a common outlook for backup quarterbacks is that tight end position. Well, when you've got one the caliber of Dallas Goedert in an offense he already plays in all the time anyway, I like Goddard if you don't have better options, and you likely don't because it's tight end. Not everybody has that situation that I do right now.
Not everybody listened to me and got Evan Ingram, so
I still do like the offensive skill players for the Eagles in this game, even though it's the Cowboys matchup, even though it's Gardner Minshew playing. I still like the rest of the Eagles in that matchup. Let's go ahead. Let's take our first break here. We'll listen to a little bit of holiday cheer from Manscaped. We come back on the other side. We'll touch on some of the other news that's happening around the league today.
We're always cheerful.
This holiday season, I'll be giving thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. Everyone loves turkey and stuffing, but you'll be looking like dessert with the help of Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have blessed you with the ultimate Thanksgiving dinner topic. Tell your in-laws about your new cutting-edge ball trimmer and gift yourself or the man in your life the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Trim your pumpkins by going to manscaped.com and use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY for free shipping and 20% off. Think your holiday spread is good? It's time to give thanks to the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, or as I like to call it, the perfect package for your package. Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies. Think of it as a cornucopia for your balls. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.
All right,
I'm still trying to figure out how I'm supposed to tell the in-laws about Manscaped, but
now, what do they do again, Kevin? Oh, they're grooming Prague 8, and
that's right.
Proud. I'm not just a member. I'm also a client.
That's
All
right.
So let's take a look real quick at some injury situations around the league here.
Okay.
Now we've brought up a couple of them already. We said like Nico Collins is out on IR.
It's too bad because Houston has some decent wide receiver.
They really do.
And they're all out though. And so, if you're in dynasty leagues and you're trying to evaluate which of these are the best wide receivers, you're just not going to see it.
Yeah, it's rough down there right now in the Houston wide receiver core. We said Collins is out on IR. Brandon
Chris
Cooks
Moore
is expected to
the
play.
guy that I said pick up, and he's questionable too.
Chris Moore has kind of a neat little story there. Yeah, I mean,
he
kind of came out of nowhere. And has been really, really serviceable and maybe making a name for himself and making a future for himself down there in Houston. But he is, as you said, still questionable for today. Now they do expect both Cooks and Moore to be able to play today. How much we'll see.
Yeah.
They still have the Houston quarterback brigade throwing to them. Jeff Driscoll and Kyle Allen and Davis Mills are all still.
If you patch all three of them together, you might have a half a quarterback.
Which means you don't have one. All right. But elsewhere, Ramondre Stevenson questionable, but he was questionable last week and put up a high with 172 yards rushing.
As long as he doesn't throw the ball backwards, he's good to go.
Right. Yeah, he's the one that. Yeah, he's the one
that
started the avalanche.
Yeah.
And
an avalanche, yeah.
So Damian Harris, his teammate, is also questionable.
I'm not looking to start any New England Patriots this week. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but
I'm not worried about Harris. I probably wasn't starting him anyway.
No, right.
Stevenson, I
other
still
than
like
Stevenson, of course, but
Stevenson's. But yeah, we talked about their Mac Jones quarterback situation. I haven't been big on a wide receiver in New England since Moss. And so, and their tight end situation, between the two of them, you patch them together, you've got a decent usable tight end, but you can never tell from week to week who's going to get the 2 catches for a touchdown and 30 yards. So,
that's right.
I'm staying away from everybody there except Stevenson, but he is questionable. Don't let that deter you because he was questionable last week, like we said, and had a career day. Devontae Parker, speaking of their wide receiver situation, Parker's still in concussion protocol. He's out.
Don't do it.
Meyer.
Don't do
Jacoby
it.
Myers, their leading receiver, looks like he is going to play. He's questionable, but he should play. Tyquan Thornton is questionable, but my cousin hasn't done anything all year anyway, so don't worry about that. Moving along, Hayden Hurst for the Bengals is out. Now his backup Mitchell Wilcox had his first career touchdown last week in relief of him, but that doesn't seem to slow down Cincinnati at all. They've got 3 wideouts that we know are all world. All 3 of those wideouts actually scored a touchdown last week in the same game for the first time, which is pretty cool. when you've got a receiving core like the Bengals have, you don't
They
necessarily
were
need
certainly
Hayden
helped
Hurst.
by Tom Brady turning the ball over 17 times when I'm trying to reach the semifinals, and Tom Brady's my quarterback, and I have a pretty comfortable lead, and all of a sudden turnover.
Two
Like,
interceptions for the first time all season, and he's
dude, I'm trying to win my semifinal matchup. Can you please stop doing that?
Tom, we got to do. Come on, buddy.
I was telling my wife, because we're Bengals here, and so right, and so if I can win my matchup with Tom Brady and the Bengals win, I'm golden. And so that's exactly what he threw, that garbage TD right at the end of the game.
Helped you out.
Salvaged my redraft, league. And so I'm going up against Dale. He's been on the show once before, so it's me versus him, semifinals. I was talking to him the other day, and the person that I beat was very upset because I was the very last guy that snuck into the playoffs in redraft league, and I wound up putting 215 points out there. So I had 4 people score 30 or more fantasy points.
Not bad.
Got trucked, and he said, "I hope you win." I'm like, "Well, you got your wish. Here I come." So
I got a feeling Brady and them might be button hooking everybody down there in Tampa Bay. I mean, they haven't looked great all year, but they know they don't have to look great to get in the playoffs in the NFC South.
Right, and they got Arizona this week, so start your Tampa Bay Buccaneers players.
They may be just lulling everybody, false sense of security, and then they'll hit everything and go on a run here in 3 weeks. But we'll see.
Yeah.
But
first round against probably the Cowboys.
It definitely has not been a vintage Tom Brady year. We know that much.
He's yelling at people on the sideline and flying off to weddings during game week and all this other kind of stuff. And
other big names from the early games here at wide receiver, Chris Olave, one of your dudes is out.
That's really disappointing. What? This guy's put together an excellent season.
He's been really good. Looked really
good. And he's the only player in that wide receiver core that you had any confidence in whatsoever. And so stay away, way away from any wide receiver.
Olave and Garrett Wilson have been the 2 top most consistent rookie wide receivers. Green Bay with Watson looks like they found a guy finally. It took him a while to develop. I still think Drake London turns into a guy, and
I think so too. He just needs somebody to throw to him. That's all he needs.
George Pickens in Pittsburgh looks like a guy.
Same thing there. He just needs a quarterback.
Yeah, for that matter, I don't know that Thornton isn't going to be okay up in New England. It's just he's playing in the New England passing offense, and nobody's calling plays up there right now. They're kind of drawing it up in the dirt as they go, it seems.
Yeah.
It was a highly touted rookie class coming in. I mean, for the Packers standpoint, Dobbs looks like a serviceable, good wide receiver 2 type. He doesn't look like a top guy.
To stay on the field is all about him,
right? Well, both of them, because Watson's had trouble too. But it was a highly touted rookie class coming in, and they look for the most part like they've lived up to that. But Olave out. Jarvis Landry going on IR in New Orleans. So look
he's
for Rashid
out. So
Shaheed.
No one. Stay away from New Orleans.
I disagree with that a little bit. I like Rashid Shaheed.
Shaheed, okay, you could probably talk me into that, but
he can score from anywhere in the stadium on any given play. He's done it running. He's done it receiving. Explosive talent, and right now he's their number 1 dude. I mean, who else? Traquan Smith. I mean, I don't want Traquan Smith.
No, that's not. No, that's
again. To paraphrase my guy Denny Green, he is what we think he is at this point. Traquan Smith is a NFL rosterable player. He's not anything to write home about in fantasy, but Rashid Shaheed has some explosive potential. I like him if you're desperate. I don't like him if you're.
Hopefully, that's not what you need in the semifinal.
If you're in that situation, though, like we talked about Zay Jones coming off of everybody was kind of hyped up on him, myself included. I played him in a league, and he only got you, roughly 2 points, depending on what your scoring system is. You got to take that. You got to look at things. Playing it safe at this point in the season, if you can afford to play it safe, you play it safe. But if you can't, now if you were expecting some points out of Zay Jones, and maybe you are missing, Jalen Hurts, and you're playing with some kind of backup quarterback, you got to take big swings and look where you can, hit the home run. Getting a nice 10 to 12 points is nice, but if you need more than that, playing a guy who's going to get you 10 to 12 points isn't going to cut it. You want to play a guy that's got some kind of, pop off ability. Back in the day, I would have said like this would have been that's one of those situations where you want to play a guy like a Tyler Lockett or a Deshaun Jackson from 6 years ago, where it's not a guy that's going to wasn't going to consistently get you that double digit points, but every week he was possible to hit high 20, 32 points type in a game. If you've got to take that kind of a swing, Rashid Shaheed is one of those guys that I think has that ability to hit that for you. So,
I'm thinking that if you need a wide receiver and you need to take a swing, look no further than the Seattle Seahawks.
Marquise Goodwin.
He was producing even when he was the number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And
good for that dude.
Yeah. And Tyler Lockett, as we all know, is out. They're going up against a Kansas City defense, which is vulnerable. And apparently it'll be cold just like the rest of the place, but that should be the only factor up there in Kansas City, I believe. So Marquise Goodwin, get him. If he's out Goodwin, there, get him. Get him in your lineup. He's
73 and a half years old, but he's still fast.
Yeah.
And he's been playing with that old man strength this year, man.
That's right.
So
anybody that's got DK Metcalf over on the other side is going to get some open looks.
Yeah, he's going to have to.
So that's the game. If we're talking about games where you're going to get fantasy points, Seattle at Kansas City is the place to start.
We want to stick with Seattle for a second. Noah Fant is questionable.
He's questionable. I saw people recommending picking him up and playing him. I say just put up the caution sign just a little bit on him.
He's played better of late. Will Dissly is still played. There.
Hopefully you've got better tight end options than Noah Fant.
Yeah, hopefully. Seattle is Seattle's in the same boat with New England and with Denver. Some of these teams, Houston, teams that have a good wide or tight end core and actually have a guy on each of those teams that looks like he could be a number 1 type guy.
Right, because they
don't use them as such.
Right.
They just don't use them. We've seen Noah Fant be a top 10.
We have seen it, and I thought maybe him going to Seattle would be a good thing for him.
And yet they keep giving the ball to Dissly. They keep giving to Colby Parkinson. They keep occasionally throwing to Noah Fant. Tyler Lockett being a lot more consistent this season, I think, has also pulled some away from the tight end position. But Noah Fant just not consistent enough for me, and being questionable today. I would stay away from that if I could.
Even though I'm a Seahawk guy, as everybody knows, don't put your season in the hands of Noah Fant if you don't have to.
And as if the Malik Willis, starting news in Tennessee wasn't enough to sway you away from any of their pass catchers. Treylon Burks is still questionable in the concussion protocol.
That's right.
So the only pass catcher in Tennessee that I have any excitement about is Chigokonkwo, speaking of tight ends.
That's right.
I like that dude.
As I mentioned in my article, just spelling that name, let alone pronouncing it, was a fun exercise. So
right. Tangle your fingers up on the keyboard a little bit.
That is the guy that I could definitely put down some fantasy coins on today.
I like him.
I do too.
I might have a little bit of an Okonkwosh.
That's right.
He's a good player. He's an explosive player. I think he's the best receiving tight end on that team. Austin Hooper's a good player. He's a good solid tight end. He's a good real life tight end. For fantasy, in the fantasy realm, I'm hoping against hope in some cases that they wake up and just let Chigokonkwo eat. Now with Malik Willis playing at quarterback and trying to figure out how to be a professional quarterback.
He's going to need a tight end to get that ball to. So that's positive for him too, I think.
The only thing I would caution on that again, as I'm doing research here for the blitz pickup that I do every week, when Malik Willis had his 2 starts earlier in the season with Tannehill out, over those 2 starts, Mr. King Henry rushed for over 300 yards total, including a 200-yard game.
That's right. So if you
scored 4 touchdowns, so they will lean on the run game as they should when you've got a guy like Derrick Henry. They are fighting for their playoff lives now, as we just talked about.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not putting too much stock in anybody that catches passes in Tennessee, but if I do have to put some money down on someone, like I said, I'm going with Chigozie Okonkwo. Play it up, big man. Play it up. All right. You know what? Let's hit our second spot here real quick. We'll listen to some words from the fine folks at True Classics, and then when we come back on the other side, we'll each highlight a game that we're checking out here that we're really excited about before we get going and watch some actual football this day.
Football is back, baby, and our new sponsor, True Classic, wants you to look and feel your best even after a couple of brewskis or going full force on your fantasy football draft. Sure, it's football season, but it's also butt-to-couch season. Luckily, True Classic has the absolute best-fitting clothing a man can buy. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra space in the torso, their t-shirts are designed to keep you cozy and highlight your best assets no matter what you're up to. So if your special someone is upset that you're watching football all day, at least you can look good doing it. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find the perfect fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with 6-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. It's about time to get your fit together, so upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at TrueClassic.com with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY. If there's one bet you should make this football season, it's on True Classic. True Classic, look good, feel good.
Look good, feel good. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right. So, yeah, in this area, if I could just mention that, as we know, the cold snap moved through here, around the country Thursday, and I had just gotten my my shirt earlier in the week, and it was a long sleeve shirt. So I was wearing that around the house Thursday, yesterday, as it was getting cold and colder and colder. It was very comfortable, and I had it on. Wife put one finger on it, said, "I like it."
Yep,
so
I was just
there you have it. So,
and then it turned into NSFW. So excellent, good work. Thank you to the folks at True Classic. Yeah, like you said, it was just in time.
That's right. As you mentioned earlier, I'm also a client, so get out there and get you some of these, because I've got 4 of them now.
Yep.
So there you have it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Hey, let's take a look here. What's one game? I'll let you go first, since I seem to always steal from you when Duck's running this show. What is one game that you are looking at today of today's slate? Because Wednesday night we already talked about, tomorrow and Monday night. But what's a game you're looking at today that you're excited from a fantasy standpoint to see what shakes out?
Well, I mentioned it earlier in that Seattle at Kansas City. There should be fantasy points all over the place right here, because neither of them plays particularly good defense. And so you don't need me to tell you, Kelsey, you don't need me to tell you about, Mahomes. But the starter of this week that I'm looking at is none other than McKinnon. Right?
There you go.
This guy had 2 touchdowns last week. He catches, he runs. And so if you need a guy, hopefully, you're not scratching the bottom of the barrel, but McKinnon is a guy We talked about maybe some season savers and Evan Ingram being one of those. McKinnon certainly qualifies in this area to me, because he's the guy that you could have got off the waiver wire a couple of weeks back. And he's putting up 30 fantasy point numbers right now.
Right. And it's not like, I mean, Pacheco is the guy who gets
Pacheco is the guy that if you have him, put him in there as well.
Pacheco's the guy that gets most of the rushing attempts.
That's right.
He is their runner in that offense.
That's right. Because he had 15 carries, 86 yards last week.
But McKinnon still carried the ball 10 times.
That's right.
Caught
he had
8 targets.
That's 25 rushes between the two of them.
Right.
They've got time to go around. Combination right there. So
no, they both averaged over 5 yards a carry. McKinnon caught a touchdown and ran for a touchdown. But like I said, 8 targets in that offense, and he caught all of them.
And the best news is that, well, maybe not best news in this house, but the Seahawks are number 31 against the running backs. And so start Pacheco, start McKinnon, and you don't need me over here because Walker, running back for the Seahawks, is playing. He was questionable. And
fire him up.
Fire him up, even though that's really not the weakness of the Kansas City defense. Wide receiver is. And so, as we mentioned earlier, Metcalf is a go. Goodwin is a go. And so that's a game where I think it's going to be a ton of points, both real and in fantasy. And so be looking at that. And perhaps, so I'm not such a big homer, another game that you could look at is the Giants in Minnesota.
There's mine.
Okay.
That's the one.
I'll shut up then. I'll let you take it.
Well, not to jump off that Kansas City Seattle game too quickly, though. I mean, you want to talk about offensive efficiency. Now, I know they were facing the Texans last week, but I brought it up where I just said Jerick McKinnon, 8 targets, 8 catches. That same game, Juju Smith-Schuster, 10 targets, 10 catches.
That's right.
Same game, Travis Kelce, 10 targets, 10 catches. Between the three of them.
For 105 yards.
Between the three of them, 28 targets, 28 catches. Yeah,
right. So
it's free money.
Mahomes threw 41 passes. And so he threw 13 passes elsewhere.
And most of those were caught too. It was the most efficient game of Mahomes' career since it was like 2019, 2018 or something. He completed almost 88% of his passes in the game.
5 incompletions the entire game.
Absolute stud numbers we're talking about there. And like you said, Seattle is not great on defense.
No,
this game
that's going to be the undoing of a promising season.
This game has an over/under of 51, highest one on the slate today, according to our folks over at quarter 4. Fire up your Chiefs, fire up your Seahawks if they're healthy. Get them going. Get them going. I agree with you completely.
Smith,
that was one I
get them going. Walker, get them going. As we mentioned, Goodwin, get them going. Metcalf, get them going. The only questionable guy right there is Noah Fant. And, because Kansas City is pretty decent against tight ends anyway.
Yeah.
And you might want to look at someone if it's a tight end position. And at this point, you're taking whatever you can scrape down right off the bottom of that, right off the very bottom of the barrel. Hopefully, there's still some oil down there. But
I'll tell you someone, Trey McBride, is coming off his best game of the season. 4 out of 5 last week. I believe it was 55 yards off the top of my head. I'm trying to think because I wrote the article about him, but 55, I think, yards receiving. I mean, he's starting to come into his own, starting to figure it out. I like him. I mean, it's Trace McSorley, but again, we talk about backup quarterback, going to have to be thrown to somebody. He's got DeAndre Hopkins, got Trey McBride. He may not have a ton of time to throw, so you may want to throw some of those underneath routes to their tight end rather than trying to chuck it deep to, F it, Hopkins is down there somewhere. But yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, fire up everybody in that game except possibly Fant. Yeah, I like that idea. But brought up the over-under of 51 for that game. Speaking of
Chris
over-unders,
Moore's status changed from questionable to healthy. I just saw the.
Hey, there you have it. So we've got a Chris Moore sighting down in Houston. Could be a sneaky fun play today. It could be a guy you don't have to pay much for in daily.
That's right. You shouldn't have to pay much at all to get him, and he's been a quality receiver, as those that read my article are well aware.
He will be a guy they're looking at today, and they're going to have to. They're always behind. They're playing at Tennessee. But, yeah, Chris Moore, good option there. But over-under is a 51 in Kansas City with Seattle, but 49.5 between the Giants and the Vikings, like you just brought up. Here's a couple of offenses that we know can put up some points, a couple of defenses that don't necessarily stop people a whole hell of a lot.
Right.
And this could be a fun game.
Their defense is going to we talk about Minnesota, that defense is going to, it's going to run their boat up against the rocks, so to speak.
Minnesota, I don't think anybody doubts at this point, especially after what we saw last week, but I don't think anybody doubts at this point that Minnesota has an offense that can go all the way.
Of course. They got to go.
And it pains me to say that. And I'm sitting here
an
hour and a half from the stadium, so I hear about them all the bleeping time. But you can't argue with the fact that they have an offense that can go all the way. They have a running back who has been and is capable of being the top overall fantasy type running back.
Yeah.
They have receivers Jefferson is possibly the best receiver in the game right now.
Yeah,
he's got an argument for it anyway.
First round draft pick, Justin Jefferson. Go.
Adam Thielen is on the decline, but is still a good football player and knows what he's doing and is a good complement to Jefferson. KJ Osborne is an athletic and good complement on the outside. Now they've got TJ Hawkinson. Kirk Cousins is playing good football. And you like that. So Christian Darrisaw and that offensive line are actually starting to look like actual offensive linemen rather than just fat dudes on the field. This is a team that has an offense that can do it. The question is right now, and which is weird because we're used to seeing Minnesota have a little bit stronger defense. The question right now is, can their defense
structure of that team switched 180 degrees from one coaching regime to the next?
Right.
If they could have maintained that defense they had a couple of years ago, they might be unstoppable now.
Maintained a semblance of it right now.
Even mediocre.
A lot of one score wins, and I am the first one to jump in on here and anywhere else. I'm the first one to say one score wins are wins, and it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
You don't have to win the game by double digits. You have to win the game.
Right.
And 6-3 is just as good as 63-3. It's just as good as 63-30. Win the game. And they have found ways to do that for the most part this season, to the point that they are the number 2 seed right now and have an outside. Again, they need help from people beating the Eagles, but they've put themselves in a pretty good position. We know they've already won the North. They're in. It's just a question of how far can they go. But, this offense, again, you don't need anybody to tell you to play Dalvin Cook. You don't need anybody to tell you to play, Justin Jefferson.
No.
Kirk Cousins is a viable option at quarterback. You can do much worse than
not a prime time game. Well, I guess you could say it's a prime time. Well, 3:30, I guess.
It's a big game in the grand scheme of things right now. So but you're talking about the fantasy quarterback 8 right now overall. And he's a guy. He's never flashy. He's never flashy.
Fantasy matchup.
He's never the guy that you're excited to take in the draft. He's never the guy that you're excited to pick up off the wire. But the dude puts up starting quarterback fantasy numbers. He's 12th in points per game right now. He's 8th in overall points right now. He's got a litany of people that we've just run through to throw it to. So he likes that.
You got 1,000 options.
You can't go wrong. like you said, I mean, if we get any time at all to throw behind that offensive line, which is, again, admittedly, hit or miss prospect sometimes, you or I could probably toss to some of these dudes because they're that good. It's not necessarily about what's on this end of the throw; it's on the other end of the throw.
No, so, and they fell behind because they had some fluky turnovers in that game against the Colts, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
today
no, you're not going to have punts blocked for touchdown and defensive touchdowns and that happening.
And Dalvin Cook fumbling the football and everything else.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm in the first half and a perfect storm in the second half, but the wind blew from the opposite direction after halftime. It was crazy. What a great game. What a fun game to watch. I told my dad at halftime. My dad called me. We were on our way to see him at the time. He called me at the halftime of that game. He's like, "You watching this game? No team's ever come back." He's a Packer fan like I am. I said, "Yeah, but if there's any team that this year that could come back from this, the Vikings are one of them." I said, "This wouldn't be the weirdest thing." I'm not necessarily, I don't think I'm all that prescient in it. They're an explosive offense. Explosive offenses are the kinds that can come back from those kinds of deficits. The previous biggest comeback in NFL history, that Oilers-Bills game that we watched, where Frank Reich brought them back.
That's right.
Again, the Bills were not an inept offense at the time. The Bills were, even with Frank Reich at the helm,
Thurman Thomas and all that.
Right? Even with Frank Reich at the helm, they were a good explosive offense. Those are the kinds of offenses that can come back from those kinds of things. Had it happened to, we don't think that Philadelphia would have put themselves in that position because they're a little bit better defensively and they've been a little bit better, more consistent overall. But Philadelphia is one of those offenses where had they been the ones to come back from down 33-0, we all would have been like, yeah, that's the team that probably could have done that. Right? Yeah. This wasn't Carolina somehow putting a comeback together against the 49er defense or some ridiculousness. This was a team with a not great defense that got victimized by a team with an explosive offense in the second half. It happens. But no, that game, I talked about it. Yep. Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is the guy that you could start today and feel good about it.
Yes. And I'm hoping, just from a real life standpoint, I would like to see them re-sign him in New York. I know they skipped on his option. And he's kind of lame ducking.
They should have.
He hadn't been great so far.
But and he's showed up in these games for the Giants this year.
Brian Daboll has brought some coaching intelligence to New York, which is nice to see. They are not
absent for a couple of years now.
They have not asked Daniel Jones to do as much throwing the football, and it's working. He has the best completion percentage of his career. His completion percentage has increased every year. That's what you want to see in a young quarterback.
You want to see that.
He's got the best completion percentage. He's got the best passer rating of his career so far. Even though his counting numbers, his completions, his attempts, his touchdowns, his yards, those are all a bit depressed right now because they haven't asked him to do as much.
Look at his balancing.
Right? Who the hell has he got to throw to?
He's got some guys now that are coming into their own that like Slayton and Richie James that I think could very well have positive impacts coming down the stretch.
They could. And they picked up Hodgins off the waiver wire from the Bills, and the dude's been like their best receiver since they picked him up.
And maybe Bellinger can.
These guys are all cast-offs. I like Bellinger as a tight end going forward. He's had some rough injury breaks this season, but I like him as a receiver. I like him as a player. But Jones has balanced the fact that he's not being asked to do as much with the ball throwing. He has balanced that with his best rushing season of his career so far. And
that's right. So you throw the rushing,
a good rushing quarterback
in there, and this is a good quarterback right here.
Right? I like him. I think that he can be a guy. He's 14 in points per game right now in terms of fantasy quarterbacks. He's quarterback 11 right now overall.
Overall,
he's
if
a
you've got
usable
two
fantasy
quarterback
quarterback.
system in your fantasy league, you're fine with him as your number 2 quarterback.
And I've brought it up before that with his rushing floor, he's getting you points walking in the door, waking up in the morning. He's getting you points already. Anything he does throwing the football is gravy on top of it. So I like him. I like him in this game against the Vikings. I think this could be a fun game to watch. A shootout. The Vikings are only 1-point favorites.
Well,
at home.
Let's look at this real quick.
Yeah. At home, they're 1-point favorites against the Giants.
Okay, and because Minnesota's number 28th against quarterback.
Yeah,
they're 20th against running backs. They're 30th against wide receivers, and 18th against tight end. That's a smorgasbord of fantasy value if there ever was one.
Yeah, the only Giant you don't want to play in this game, if you've got one, is their defense, because you know that the Vikings are going to put up some
do that to
friggin'
yourself.
points.
Not do that to yourself.
I mean, otherwise, no. There are points on both sides of the ball in this one right now, and that could be a fun game to watch. There's a good reason that both of those games, the Seattle, Kansas City, and Giants, Minnesota, there's a reason that those have the highest over-unders of the week. And there are some poor over-under matchups this week. New Orleans at this moment, Saints at Browns is a pick'em game, and it's got an over-under of 31.5
don't have any healthy offensive players, so
Saints don't have any healthy offensive players. The Browns are, I mean, they're what Browns. They are.
You can
but
say
Deshaun Watson has not been, No,
Deshaun Watson has not been it. All right.
Now they've won 2 of his 3 games, which is exactly what they want to be doing, but they did not pay $250 million almost guaranteed to to squeak out a couple of wins here.
Yeah.
They got him to be a top flight quarterback, and they're hoping that he
actually they got him to be what Jacoby Brissett has already been for them. Because Jacoby Brissett has been he was good.
He did very well. And they keep bringing him in occasionally too in weird spots. I'm like, why the hell's Jacoby Brissett taking that snap? Nope. Okay, we got a comment here. John Nelson says he needs Kamara to go wild. Good luck on that, though.
Well,
unfortunately,
Kamara is certainly capable of going wild.
He's capable. We've seen it this season. He had a 40 plus point game. But here's the problem with Alvin Kamara. If anybody's been paying attention, he's got 3 touchdowns all year.
Right.
Those 3 touchdowns all came in the same Evan game. He just has not been what you were hoping he would be when you drafted him. I was not big on him coming into the year.
You had to use on him was way overspent.
I wasn't big on him coming into the year. I was wary of the legal situation that he was dealing with, which has not been a problem this season. At least it hasn't been a problem in terms of his availability. I don't know how much it's weighed on him mentally or anything else. He has not been the Alvin Kamara that we have expected and that we have come to know and love from a fantasy perspective. You need him to go wild.
Well, this
I'm not
may
sure
be
about
a game that he could possibly do that because New Orleans, number 29 against running back. That is their defensive weakness. So it's possible.
It's possible. I've got him ranked.
You have to define for me what "go wild" means exactly, but
I've got him ranked at number 13 overall. I don't.
Yeah, going wild at number 13. That's not how you define wild at all.
I have a feeling that I'm ranking him that high just because it's Alvin Kamara and I know what he can do. I'm not necessarily basing that ranking on what I think he will do.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It's the matchup you want against Kamara right here. And so if you're looking for anything over, I'm going to say 15 fantasy points, you might wind up being disappointed.
Yeah, I'm just not I don't know. I'm just not big on Kamara this season, but good luck for you. I hope it works out for you there, John Nelson.
You might want to let us know what he produced compared to what he what you hoped for.
Kamara, yeah, I mean, geez, he had, like I said, he had that 40-plus point game. And that came right
Maybe
at
that
the
was
trade.
the time to get him sold.
That came in week 8.
So.
That came in week 8. And it's the kind of thing where, like, you know what? If you had been paying attention, and I'm not saying that, you know, Kamara owners maybe weren't paying attention, but since that game, his highest score for a week has been 12.9 points, which is not a guy that you wanted to spend late first round capital on.
Right.
He's only broken 20 points twice this season. And one of them was that 42-point game. He was the kind of guy that if you could have offloaded him after that giant, you know, we're talking about that.
That would have been a win for you. Some guys you want to offload
after they have the big game.
Right.
And he would have been a prime candidate for that this season. Now, I don't think any of us thought he was going to be this pedestrian in the second half of the year. But
yeah, you're if you got Kamara, you're stuck.
Yeah. Good
no
luck.
One's
Good luck with that.
A whole lot to get him.
He also wants to know then now here, he's going to bring it up again before we sign off here. Will Stevenson repeat? We brought him up earlier. I like Stevenson. I like him a lot. I think so
too. As long as he's playing, absolutely get him in your lineup.
I've got him as a top 10 play. I've got him at number 8 this week.
Absolutely. As long as he, like we mentioned earlier, as long as he please don't throw the ball backwards any further.
Yep, right.
And
now Cincinnati's a tough matchup against running backs, but I think Stevenson is by far their biggest offensive weapon they have.
Absolutely.
In New England.
Absolutely.
And
he
I think
is.
They're going to feed him all day long. The cool thing about Ramondre Stevenson is that he's not Isaiah Pacheco that we talked about earlier, where he's just their runner or whatever. They are going to throw the ball to Ramondre Stevenson as well. He's a James Conner type in that way, in that he's a little bit matchup proof from the running back position, where if it gets the negative game script, he's still going to be involved because they will throw him the football. I like Stevenson to, I don't know if he repeats quite 172 rushing yards, but I like him to put up running back 1 numbers again. He's been one of my favorite plays this year since his emergence.
So if you're Andrew, you must be, happy about Stevenson. The rest,
right?
Prayer closet.
A guy that I was not big on coming into the season, as big as everybody else, because of the Damian Harris factor still being there. But with Harris being injured and Stevenson emerging as the guy that they actually give the ball to, not just has the talent, but actually is getting the usage. Stevenson's been one of my favorite plays this season since that point. All right, that's going to do it for us today. I think we're going to all get out of here and go get prepared to watch these games.
Some of us
have
still
some
have
family
to wrap
time.
presents. I don't know about you and your house, but there's some wrapping that needs to be going on around here. Of course, my wife
took care of all that.
Done, the bows and the streams and everything else are all on the
presents. My wife took care of most of that, but she didn't wrap the stuff that she's supposed to unwrap tomorrow. So I do have some work to do on that count.
The shopping is done. I don't need to jump in the car and go do that at the last minute, fortunately for me. So, but yeah, the wrapping, that's a whole different story altogether.
What do you got going on, Kevin? Where can we find you, and what can we look forward to from you?
It should be a pretty interesting week because we got, regardless of whether I reach the finals or not, I will have a finals, championship waiver pickup article. And then on Tuesday, Belly Up is having a football extravaganza show that starts at 7, Eastern, where time begins and all that. 6 o'clock here. I will be involved in that at some point. The first half is college football. The second half, they'll be talking about pro football, and we'll be talking about some college games. We'll be talking about the Rose Bowl with my Utah Utes in it and everything else, and
guests from in the network, outside the network, all over the place.
Out. So that's a 2-hour special. All right.
Yep.
You're definitely going to Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock where we live, and so you're definitely going to want to check that out. And you can always check me out on Twitter. It's Kevin62 WILSEA. If there are any other start sit questions, anything like that, you can certainly throw them my way. And I will try and be as big a fantasy professor as I can be. And so, it's a great day. We're looking forward to the footballs going on today. And whether we don't care about political, correctness around here. But so Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Christmas to you, Chase, and hope everybody has a wonderful couple days here.
Excellent. I agree with that. You as well. Merry Christmas to you and yours and everybody out there. Happy holidays, whatever holiday you're going to celebrate. But yes, you can find me as always, STT Chase FFB on the Twitter machine. I will be, like I said, right after the show here, I'll be releasing the Blitz pickup, so you can look through that for last minute.
That's right. So you might want to get over to the
lineups.
Belly Up Fantasy website.
There, yes.
Waiting for that to drop and hit the button so you can read that hot off the press.
While you're waiting, check out my rankings, check out Dan Mater's rankings and Andrew's rankings and Commissioner Cooper's rankings over there. Help you get with those last second questions you have for today. Good luck to everybody. I hope it goes well for you in the fantasy playoffs. I hope you're still alive in the fantasy playoffs, as some of us are.
That's right.
I hope everybody has a fun day tomorrow. But we are going to sign off. We're going to tell you Slanjava. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that, and we will see you next week.
That's right.